light within. In several early Christian and mystical traditions, Jesus spoke of a light that exists within a person. In the Gospel of Luke, he says the lamp of the body is the eye, and when it is clear, the whole body is full of light. In the Gospel of Thomas, the language becomes even more direct, describing a light that shines from within those who know themselves. This inner luminosity was later understood by some thinkers as a sign of divine origin, a trace of the monad, the ultimate source in certain mystical systems. The idea suggests that the human being is not merely flesh and memory, but carries a spark from a higher unified reality. It matters because it shifts identity from outer status to inner awareness. Single eye. When Jesus speaks about the eye being single, he is not describing physical sight alone. In ancient symbolism, the single eye represented focused consciousness and undivided awareness. Mystical readers connected this to the return of perception back to unity, which mirrors the nature of the monad as pure oneness. A divided gaze sees fragments and opposites. A single eye sees coherence. In practical terms, this sign points to clarity of perception that arises when inner conflict settles. It becomes a physical metaphor for spiritual alignment, born from above. In the Gospel of John, Jesus tells Nicodemus that one must be born from above to see the kingdom of God. The phrase has often been translated as born again, but its original meaning carries a sense of higher origin. Some early Christian mystics understood this not as a second physical birth, but as awakening to a prior source beyond the material world. In traditions that speak of the monad, this birth from above reflects remembrance of one's true origin. It implies that the soul's source is not bound to earthly systems. The sign is internal, yet its effect becomes visible in how a person lives and perceives reality. Image of the Father. Jesus repeatedly refers to himself as the image of the Father. In ancient thought, an image was not merely a picture, but a visible expression of an invisible principle. To say someone reflects the Father is to suggest that the unseen source can be recognized through embodied form. In certain mystical interpretations, the Father resembles the monad, beyond shape, beyond division, yet expressed through emanation. The physical life of Jesus, then, becomes a sign of what unity looks like when it enters time. The idea carries weight because it frames embodiment not as separation from the divine, but as a channel of it, living water. When Jesus speaks of living water to the Samaritan woman, he describes something that quenches thirst permanently. Water in ancient symbolism often stood for life force or spirit. Living water, unlike stagnant water, moves and renews. Some mystical traditions linked this flowing presence to the outpouring from the monad into creation. It suggests that divine origin is not static but dynamic, continuously sustaining life. As a physical sign, thirst and satisfaction become metaphors for spiritual memory and fulfillment. Bread of life. In John's account, Jesus calls himself the bread of life. Bread is ordinary, physical, and essential. By connecting himself to daily nourishment, he grounds spiritual reality in tangible experience. For mystics who saw divine origin in him, this statement reveals that the essence of the monad can be encountered in the simplest forms of sustenance. The body eats bread to live, the soul receives truth to remain connected to its source. The sign matters because it dissolves the barrier between sacred and ordinary existence. Resurrection body. The accounts of resurrection describe a body that is both physical and transformed. It can be touched, yet it appears and disappears. Early Christian thinkers struggled to describe this state, and some saw it as a sign of a higher mode of existence. In systems influenced by the idea of the monad, the resurrection body represents matter realigned with its origin. It is no longer heavy or bound by decay. The physical transformation becomes evidence that unity with the source alters even the structure of embodied life. Kingdom within. Jesus states that the kingdom of God is within you, or among you. Rather than pointing to a distant realm, he locates divine reality and immediate experience. For those who understood the monad as the ultimate unity beyond fragmentation, this statement suggests that access to that unity is inward. The physical body becomes the field in which this awareness unfolds. The sign shifts attention from external authority to interior awakening, reshaping how spiritual authority is understood. Peace beyond the world. Jesus speaks of a peace not given by the world. In historical context, his audience lived under Roman occupation, surrounded by political unrest. Peace, therefore, was not the absence of conflict, but an inner steadiness untouched by outer systems. Mystically, this peace reflects alignment with the monad, which exists beyond change and division. When embodied in a person, it becomes visible through composure and compassion. The physical sign is calm presence amid instability, revealing connection to something deeper than circumstance. Unity with the Father. In John's Gospel, Jesus declares, "I and the Father are one." This statement is simple yet profound. It does not describe partnership or similarity, but unity. In traditions that speak of the monad as the ultimate oneness, such language resonates strongly. The claim suggests that separation is not final reality. The physical life of Jesus becomes a living expression of indivisible source. For those who follow this path, the statement implies that unity is not exclusive, but a pattern others may rediscover within themselves. Vine and branches. Jesus describes himself as the vine and his followers as the branches. In this image, life flows from a single source into many extensions. A branch cannot survive if it is cut off from the vine, because its vitality depends entirely on connection. Mystical readers saw in this metaphor a reflection of emanation from the One, similar to how the monad is understood as the origin from which all life proceeds. The physical image of a vine growing into many branches becomes a quiet sign of shared essence. It suggests that individuality does not cancel unity, but grows out of it. Salt of the earth. When Jesus calls his followers the salt of the earth, he chooses something small, ordinary, yet powerful. Salt preserves and gives flavor. In the ancient world, it was essential for survival. As a physical substance, salt disappears into what it touches, yet its presence is unmistakable. Some mystical interpretations connect this to the hidden imprint of divine origin within human life. The spark of the monad may not always be visible, but its influence shapes character and action. The sign matters because it points to quiet transformation rather than outward display. Light of the world. Jesus not only speaks of inner light, but also calls himself the light of the world. Light reveals what is hidden and guides those who walk in darkness. In a symbolic sense, light represents knowledge and awareness. In traditions that speak of a divine source beyond ignorance, light becomes a sign of remembrance. The world, often described as shadowed or fragmented, is illuminated by contact with its origin. The physical image of light breaking into darkness carries a deeper meaning. Unity clarifies what division obscures. Good Shepherd. The image of the shepherd was familiar in the ancient Near East. A shepherd guides, protects, and knows each sheep individually. When Jesus calls himself the Good Shepherd, he presents care as an expression of divine authority. Mystically, this care reflects the sustaining aspect of the ultimate source. The monad, though beyond form, is understood as the ground that holds all existence together. The physical scene of a shepherd leading a flock becomes a living picture of guidance rooted in unity rather than control. True resurrection and life. Jesus declares that he is the resurrection and the life, even before his own crucifixion. The statement shifts resurrection from a distant event to a present reality. Life, in this sense, is not only biological survival, but participation in something eternal. In systems that speak of the monad, true life is alignment with the source that does not decay. The physical sign of rising from death symbolizes awakening from separation. It suggests that divine origin is not merely a past beginning, but an active force that restores wholeness.